Hey, Hav, how you doing today?
Doing good, Len.
So we're gonna do people liking the fan questions. Of course, we got more fan questions from the fan questions, which I'll look at in a second. I was gonna say we see the video, we see other people having they send in their video, and then I wanted people, and you and I both like this idea where people can send their video in, and we could feature it in the video of them talking, and then we could discuss what they're asking us, right?
Yeah, I like that idea because it interacts us with the fans that are interested in our sport, and it makes them more part of it, and they feel appreciated. I mean, heck, if I'm a fan and I send somebody a question and they actually put my video on there asking the question, it's kind of cool. I like that idea, and I think more people should do it.
Well, I think you're a humble guy. You're a nice, great coach, and people they meet you, they like you, and they realize, oh wow, how would actually respond to my question? Like we do on the questions that they type, but it is a little more personal when they film it in.
Yeah, and as long as it's the right kind of question that doesn't hurt anybody, I'm good to answer it. If it's gonna, hurt people that I knowingly know my answer is gonna hurt, I'm probably gonna avoid it. I don't want to cause anybody any kind of harm in any way, a fighter, or whatnot, or a coach, or I want to try to be as diplomatic as possible and answer a direct question without inflicting kind of throwing fire at somebody.
Yeah, no politics, and of course, I mean, just so people can understand, for you people listening, if this is your first time watching, please subscribe. We'll be giving you some of the greatest insight of the AKA fight life and the team and the fighters on the team. And really, it's about sharing the experience with them, with us, and everybody sharing together. But we're not going to give away something that would hurt. Let's say Khabib going to a fight, we would not give away any special move, because that's like, if you're a fan, they may not understand that that's like industrial spying or something, right? Like
Yeah. I mean, but the thing is, if you don't explain yourself as to why there's certain things you may not answer, then they'll be like, hey, why the hell didn't he say this? Why didn't he get asked this? Well, if you understand why, and the questions are leading to a negative result, then now you know why it won't be answered.
Yeah, I mean, first of all, like you had the last podcast we did, you said some positive things about Tony Ferguson, who a while back had a not so nice comment in the news that we don't give any credit to. So, we're not going to give credit to any negativity. We're here to just spread the positive message, right?
Yeah, I mean, the bottom line is this, he's such an incredible opponent, and he's formidable in every aspect, mental, physical, technical. I mean, the guy's skilled in every area, and it's best to focus on that than focus on some negativity that they might have been said. I'd rather just focus on how great he is and beating a great fighter with my fighter in strategy on how to beat a great fighter, because he deserves that respect of a great fighter, because to me, that's what he is. He's a great fighter, and it's not personal. If I was training Ferguson, then obviously I'm on his team, but I'm not. I'm on Khabib's team. So my job is to get my fighter to win, and so that's my plan.
Yeah, circling back, there's something we were talking about the other day. It was one of the questions about the catch weight, because that's kind of what's leading our YouTube channel today, is about fighting Jorge Masvidal, which there's no animosity. It's just a cool competitive match. He's growing in name. It makes a more interesting fight. You get more eyeballs on it. He does fight at a bigger weight, but it looks like a competitive match to me. And people are like, why wouldn't he go up? Why does Khabib prefer to stay at one weight champion? Is that because he looks at that like, be a specialist in what you do, and that's his humility, or how does that go?
Well, if the UFC makes a 165-pound championship belt on the line, if they form that division, then we might be talking a different story. But there's no title on the line. I mean, what does it do for his legacy? I don't think beating George at that particular weight does much. And George is an incredible competitor, and he's an incredible rise. I mean, here's a guy that was looked upon as the guy that could never really quite get over the hump, and then all of a sudden, here the guy getting over the hump in a big way, deservedly so. He's very entertaining, You know, I like hearing his interviews, man. He's very comical, entertaining. You know, he's very witty. I like his wit. You know, he's a great fighter. You know, and he was a good fighter who became a great fighter.
He's got the swag. He's got the personality. He definitely has the grit. I mean, he comes from a country where you got to be a tough guy. I mean, you know, I don't know if he's first generation or he's originally from Cuba, but you know, all the athletes that come from there, like Yo Romero, they're all extremely athletic and competitive. Like, there's only one place to go is up or don't play the sport, right?
They're also fearless. You know, George is fearless. So is Romero, fearless, man. Those guys they're incredible fighters.
I mean, it's often been spoken. I hear, you know, I've heard it on other podcasts. They're joking around. They're saying a lot of these Cuban guys have like 150 fights before they they get in there, and you don't know they've been fighting their whole life and they're lying about their age. I don't know if that's true or not.
Nah, I think in general they're just speaking in general. I don't think they're speaking specifically for these guys because I don't think Romero's ever really fought outside of wrestling. And George, of course, everybody knows he's the underground fighting, you know, with the Kimbo Slice type era, you know, so George has been around for a long time fighting the real fights that, you know, street brawls, you know. So basically, he's the real G. He knows what's up.
Well, you know, that would be some top secret, Hob. I mean, let's be real. We're going to sneak in some older guys and really show you what's up. We're going to take these older guys in their 50s. We're going to say they're 30. We're going to send them in there. I don't see that happening.
No, they get killed. You know, I mean, if you're not competing at that level, you can't compete at that level. You know, so there's no way that a 50-year-old's going to jump into a UFC type main event and compete with these guys. He may make it interesting because, you know, some 50-year-olds are great fighters still, but at the end of the day, it's a young man's sport, you know, and the older guy reflexes going to be a little bit slower. Everything's going to be a bit less cardio. Everything goes down. It's just impossible to keep it up. And you know, I think that still in the UFC, I think you can be, you know, maybe mid-40s and still have a title, but I don't know about 50.
Yeah. Now let's see, just a topical, like off the top. What countries do you think, I'll tell you what I see from analytics, from what I get to see from our channel, what countries do you think has the biggest fan base for MMA, like top 3 that you could think
of? Well, fan base countries, I think Ireland, Dagestan. Man, I'm stumped on the third. I'm, you know.
Think Gracie's.
I was thinking Brazil, but I'm not so sure it's as big, only because over there they don't sell out like they used to. No, but I know Ireland for sure, and I know Dagestan for sure because of the 2 great ones, you know, Conor and Khabib. But I'm kind of stumped on the third one because now it's kind of like apples and oranges in a way. But I know those 2 for sure have a great fan base, and I'm stuck on the third, so it could be Brazil.
I'm going to tell you what our analytics are, but I also was thinking, you know, look at like up and coming countries. Where are we seeing the rise? We're seeing a lot of really amazing African fighters coming in, the heavyweights, Ngannou, and I think you pronounce the other guy's name Roysenstrike or something like that. If I get it wrong, I apologize. But
yeah, they're incredible athletes coming from there. So that wrestling culture, I don't know what kind of wrestling it is, but they go in the sand, and then once they knock each other down, it's over type thing. And yeah, those guys are extremely athletic. They're like heroes over there, and some of them are coming into the MMA world. So you'll see more, you know, people with incredible ability like Ngannou coming on board. There's one now that's Ngannou's training partner, I believe, that at least I think his last name is Gans or something like that. But I saw him fight. The guy's man, he's incredible. Incredible. And there's more coming. There's more coming.
Now, you had one of your coaches who is also a former fighter, Tomas Diange. He went over and did something with Kane. They did a documentary or something, right? About
yeah, that's where they went. That's where I'm saying guys that do that type of wrestling are going to be making a big splash in the heavyweight division because they're all heavyweights, the majority of them, you know, and they're going to make a big splash because they're extremely athletic, and they're somewhat got a little bit of it, you know. They of course they need to know more MMA related stuff, but they have half of it down, and one of it is incredible athletic ability is what they have.
Yeah, they do have grappling. They have some hitting, but it's not like combination boxing and punching. But
No,
it's power. It's not nice. It's not tickling.
no, it's not. They're incredible athletes, and
I
huge.
am
They're huge athletes. Very, very, very athletic. Very big.
I am looking at the top countries that are watching our channel right now. The top 5 I got, and these might surprise you that like to watch AKA Fight News here, is United States. Well, we expected some of that. Germany, United Kingdom, Russia, and India.
Huh.
I bet you didn't guess a couple. Which ones didn't you think were going to pop up?
India.
Yeah.
Honestly, I'm surprised with the United States.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you get Americans. They like to watch this. They find YouTube. You know, a lot of our descriptions are in
Maybe it's because of the time zone right now, and in Russia, everybody's asleep at the present time. You know,
yeah.
It's probably 2:00 over there or something like that.
Well, this is just me looking at all the watches over time.
Over time. Oh,
not at the moment.
Oh, okay, not at the moment. Okay,
yeah, that would be like some.
Well, then I'm surprised. I'm surprised about U.S. I would have thought Russia would be number 1.
It looked like they were at the beginning, but then all the American fans. There's a huge component of Khabib fans over here that are in America.
Right. Well, he's got fans everywhere.
Yeah.
And over there, he's like a hero over there to the vast majority of the countries.
Well, you know, I mean, United Kingdom, yeah, they've got a lot of fights that were put over there. Cage Rage, and Bellator has made some segues into England, had some big fights. And for a while, when Bisping was the lead, they were doing a lot of fights with him in England. So they kind of built that base over the last.
Mm-hmm. Bisping was a big plus for MMA in England. Huge part of their heritage. Not heritage. I'm sorry. Their MMA is Bisping was major player for them. You know, he was one of the only ones that actually got the status of what he did, and he was the only first ever UFC champion from England. So yeah, Bisping was a major part, influencer over there.
Well, we're seeing a rise from other countries, right? I mean, we're seeing Australia come up, which had not, it didn't look like that would happen, but now they've had a couple of, Bobby Knuckles and the guy that just beat Max Holloway, Volkanovski.
Yeah.
Those were unexpected. But then for everything looks like it's got its own thing. For a while, the island has all these guys, BJ Penn, all these guys, they're rocking it from Hawaii. Watch out for Hawaii. Now it's
then Robert Whittaker comes into play, and then like you said, and then Israel Adesanya, he comes into play. And man, he's an entertainer. That guy is just his entrance alone is worth watching. He's incredible. Incredible. And the thing I like about him is he's trying to be him, and he's a smart guy, and smart fighter, very, very technical. He's very impressive. I like the way he handles interviews. I like the way he handles himself. I like his entrance. I mean, everything about him says star.
He's definitely a gentleman. I'm looking at the card for this weekend. Maybe we'll talk after the headliner, of course. What's crazy to me is there's so many fighters now, and there's so many fights. And I started this fight business as a fan and a gym owner, and then a video guy, and found my way to you. And I've been around the MMA, but nowhere near as deep as you. But is it even hard for you to know all the names of the fighters out there that are fighting in the UFC today?
Yeah, it is. I'm still a fan, but unfortunately, there's so much going on every weekend. Almost every week, there's a fight somewhere, or 2 or 3 fights. And there's a lot of fighters that are coming out that obviously I've never seen. And I'm still a fan, but it's hard to keep up because my life is not just that as a coach. I have other things that I want to do, so I can't sit and watch all the shows that I used to, because there's so many more of them, and I always read MMA Weekly, MMA Fighting and the Bloody Elbow to get my insight on different people. And I still to this day do that almost on a daily basis, just so I get familiar with what's up, what's coming, et cetera, et cetera. And I mean, it's pretty good. You get pretty good news from Bloody Elbow and MMA Fighting. kind of fills you in. They both do almost the same kind of news, so you kind of get double it, but still, it's that's where I go to keep me updated on different people and who's on the rise, who's up and coming stars, foreign stars. They do a lot. There's a lot of good information on those websites.
Well, I think so, at some point we may have some interesting guests that we could help bridge the gap and get some more insight right from the people's mouths that are doing Russian promotions. Ask them how that's going. You've seen it up front. You were overseas to watch Umar fight for a title fight in the GFC in Uzbekistan, a month or so ago, right?
Yeah, in Uzbekistan, through its first legalized MMA event under the banner GFC, as Guerrilla Fighting Championships. Man, in many ways, it was a better event than a UFC event in many ways, and in other ways, it still needed work. But for their first show, I've never seen a show so well put together and so well received. There was like over 3,000 people. They couldn't get in. It was like, I think 18,000 or 19,000 seat arena, something like that. But there was about 3,000 that couldn't get in. And the beauty about it was run by the government, and Atabek, who is the son-in-law of the president there, he's the one that's promoting sports. And it's not just MMA, it's all sports. It's taekwondo, it's wrestling, it's judo. He supports all the sports all in one umbrella. And, as a result of that, they're getting, if you follow Uzbekistan, you'll notice that they're getting up-and-coming boxers that are some of the best in the world, and they're coming from there. And it's because the country there is being supported by the government, and the government supports them and gives them what they need to get over, to the next level. And you'll be seeing a lot of stars coming out of Uzbekistan as a result of the government helping. I've never seen a government anywhere help like they are. I've never seen that. The USA does not have that. I don't know of another country that has, people of influence pushing it like there.
Yeah, I mean, President Trump did dabble in the game for a minute. He was playing around with Affliction. You remember the Affliction promotion?
Yeah, but his participation is just hosting it. But we're talking about this government was not only hosting the event, but they recruited. They put the people in place to put the event together. They organized. I mean, the whole thing. They did the whole thing, and it was unbelievable. Like I said, it was like better than the UFC in some ways.
What did you like better about it? What was it that you were finding that their stylish touches that they added to the promotion and the experience as a coach? And then
it was like the red carpet treatment for the announcers, the celebrities. I mean, it was just organizations where they put the events. It was so professional. It was unbelievable. And then the UFC is incredible. But to be able to be equal to the UFC in some aspects or surpass them in others, that's a feat. That's a feat. And Uzbekistan was able to do that, and I was like, wow, even Frank Mir was shocked. He was good. God damn, I didn't expect this. I go, man, me either. Man, these guys really know how to throw an event.
He did look like his eyes were like, huh? When he was in some of the videos, like, wow, like the wow factor was there, right?
Yeah, no, he's never experienced that either. And remember, he's a pioneer of the UFC too, so he knows in some ways it was a better event in some ways.
Is he going back there to announce more fights, you think? Or
I think they loved him, so I think if they're throwing more events, I think they're definitely going to invite him back for sure. I think so, yes.
Now, this is amazing. It's hard to say what are the top promotions, right? Because if you're in the 2, 3, 4 spot, like PFL, Bellator, ONE FC, ONE FC claims to be massive, and Bellator, they're on TV and they have Viacom. And then PFL, they're starting now. Now Rory is going over there because he wants a shot at the $1 million. Rory McDonald wants to leave Bellator and go fight for that prize because he figures that's probably the fastest way to a top payday if his skills hold through. But they get competition there.
Well, I mean, there, in my opinion, there is no competition for the UFC. They're in a league all of their own, and from what I see, and I don't think I'm wrong. I think I think a close second would be Bellator. And I think there's people close to Bellator, that are doing well. I think the PFL is again rising, and they're making good gains. And one organization you didn't mention that's doing fantastic, and that's Combat the Americas. you look at their ratings. They've got incredible ratings, man. So they're right up in the money, you know. And I don't know anything about ONE FC. I know they got some good backing now, and I know they're trying to open up the Indian market and so many other Asian markets. So they may be doing really well. But again, in my opinion, I don't think there's anybody close to the UFC. And no, I don't think there is. And I think the books will show that if everybody was able to show their financials. I see you'll 100% see the UFC is far and away above anybody. There's not even anybody close to them, and they're monster organization, you know. And but I think Bellator, you know, is definitely one to be reckoned with in the future, and I think that they're showing that they will be someone to be reckoned with because they're making great strides. They're getting the right talent, but it's still years away, you know. But you'll be seeing Bellator coming up there. I guarantee you that.
Yeah, there's hundreds of promotions. I mean, if you're professional, amateur, you start as an amateur, you take amateur fights, those have certain rules, which I'll ask you about in a sec. And then there's then you get up to like a C or B level fight. You're fighting for 50, 150 bucks, $500. You're giving half of it to your corner man, whatever. You're trying to get in the game. You're trying to build a record, you know, and, you know, there could be something at a fair or even little casinos host them or Indian reservations host them. And that's not to mention Europe. Like one of the kids that came and trained at your gym from Italy, he was telling me that he goes to Switzerland for a lot of his fights. And who knew Switzerland? We don't even know over here in the States. Yeah. Switzerland is the country with all the money is having fights. I guess they need some entertainment, you know?
Yeah, I don't know anything about them, yeah.
What about amateur to pro? What's the transition for that? Like how many amateur fights or how does it usually go?
We never go on how many amateur fights. The bottom line is if you're ready, you're ready. You know, and the only way I know if you're ready is by watching you spar. You know, you got a person that's amateur level, and you got a person that's a pro level. You got the amateur guy sparring the pro, and all of a sudden the amateur guy is putting up a good sparring session with the pro, or actually almost beating him, or actually beating him. Well, that right there, if they're the same weight and everything's being equal, obviously the amateur guy's ready to go pro. You know, but if he's getting stuffed and getting played with, you know, and the pro that's doing it to him has only had 1 or 2 fights, it's obvious that he's not ready, you know. I mean, it's so simple, you know. There's no formula like, oh, he has to have 3 or 4 fights before he can be considered. Some guys never even have an amateur fight because they have extensive either wrestling or jiu-jitsu, or they're a professional boxer or kickboxer. And if they're a professional boxer or kickboxer, they can't go amateur. You're a pro, you can't go amateur. Another fighting sport, you have to go pro. So there's no formula other than we look at someone and yeah, you can go pro, or I think you need more work.
So is DC back training in the gym? You mentioned something about that a while back, one of our discussions. I don't know if that was us talking on the phone or maybe one of these podcasts that we did, but is he back to training?
No, I haven't seen. Well, I've been gone for out of the last 3 months, I've been gone like 2 months out of it. And when I've been back, he's been out there coaching his kids from Gilroy High and the AKA kids wrestling here. He's been coaching them in wrestling. So he's mostly been spending time at Gilroy High. And then also, remember, he plays duty as an announcer for the UFC. So he's been gone doing that too. So, man, that guy's always busy. But one thing's for sure, he'll always be there for his kids that wrestle. He'll never let them down. He'll be there. He's, like I said in the past, come fight time, if he has a fight and Saturday is, let's say, the last day before he goes to the arena to the event place, and there's a wrestling that particular Saturday, he's not going to be with me. He's going to be with his kids wrestling. That's how much passion and how much effort he puts into his wrestling.
You know, I always looked at DC, and I've known a lot of different fighters through my life personally, and I see that he has like the blueprint, much like Khabib, of what a champion is. You come to work, you do your work, you're disciplined, you show up every time, you go to bed on time, you don't, stay out at the disco, you really live the life of a champion, live, breathe, eat championship. Is that the secret behind most champions, or are some of those, like, of course, his opponent, John Jones, certainly wasn't carrying that torch, but it seems like it produces more champions than not.
Well, consistency, being on, staying on top of the game is definitely a way to maintain the championship. But, it's obvious that that's not the only way, because other people have done it their way, and that's the best way to do it to get the best performance, but that's not the best way. I'm sorry, that's not the only way to do it, because other people with incredible ability have been able to do it and still screw around and do whatever they want to do and still maintain a championship. But if they focused like a Khabib type, then obviously their performance would be better.
Well, you know, I mean, just looking at this fight coming up this weekend, we get Cowboy, who can't stand still. The guy's won a lot of great fights. He's 36-13-0. It's a lot of fights in a career. But he's also probably jumped motorcycles off a cliff, skydived, scuba dive, jet skied, you know, surf boated, whatever, anything you could think of, any extreme sport. And, you know, has his ranch and does hard physical, high excitement sport activities. And maybe that's that's just who he is. And, you know, he still had a pretty good, now he's got a money fight. I mean, that's a different way to play it too, I guess.
Well, you know, yeah. I mean, how can you not respect Cowboy? I mean, he'll fight anybody, you know, anytime. He doesn't say no, you know, and he doesn't make excuses. If he win or lose, he doesn't make excuses. How can you not respect the man? I mean, if you're unless you're a hater of his and you don't care, you know, but if you really look at what he does and what he has done, then you got to appreciate who he is and applaud him for what he does, you know, and I definitely appreciate him for who he is and applaud him for what he does, because, you know, he doesn't insult anybody. You don't insult me, I don't insult you, you know, and he goes and does his job. You know, you beat him, oh well, shake your hand and whatever, good job, you know, and he goes off and does his, you know, crazy stuff like snowboarding or whatever he's got to do, he'll go do. No, much respect to him. I don't think there's no better character in winning or losing than the way he handles himself.
Yeah, it's funny. It's the total opposite. I remember I knew Chuck many years ago, Chuck Liddell, and me and my buddy invited him to go skiing. We're like, come on, Chuck, no, we got this. Come skiing with us. He's like, no. I got to protect my legs. So he was focused on championship. He hadn't become the champion. He was on his way. This is many, many moons ago, you know, over 12 years ago. So,
but also the UFC has you sign contracts that, you know, in your contract, you can't do any dangerous type of activity. And that would be one of them. So Chuck's probably saying that, but also too, his contract probably prohibits him from doing it. Although I'm sure there's fighters that break those contracts, but there is contracts in place that says you're not to be doing anything that's deemed dangerous. And that would be dangerous activity for him, especially back then where he was, you know, where he was going and where he was at.
Well, this is in the early UFCs, in the UFC 30s, mid to late 30s, like the early UFCs.
Yeah, I believe they have those contracts in place back then.
Yeah. Well, another topic is the money. Now, we don't know if it's hyper true, but it is entertaining that Conor says that he's going to make $80 million this time in this fight. He believes he will make, and maybe that's projected analytics on pay-per-view buy-throughs. I don't know what that could be on, because I've never seen a purse that high and the front end disclosed. There may be one hell of a locker room bonus. It's a Brinks truck. Get in the back. We're going to drive you to the hotel. You know, I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know either. I mean, that's a hell of a payday. I mean, I hope, you know, from my perspective, I hope it's true, but I don't see how it can be, you know, but it definitely is possible. I mean, you're talking overseas rights that we don't even know about, pay-per-view rights in Ireland, pay-per-view rights in England, and all these other places that they're going to be airing this. So you don't know. I don't know. I have zero idea. You know, I do know that, you know, he's still the A side, you know, out of all MMA fighters, you know, and I think Khabib's probably the second on the A side, and we'll see what happens when Khabib goes with Tony, and see where he lands. But I'm bad to think that once Khabib becomes victorious, he's going to rival anybody.
Yeah, like, thanks, Conor. Did not enjoy your politics, but hey, thank you for making it possible for other fighters, right?
Well, yeah, I mean, from a perspective of fighters, you know, needing to make more money, yeah, they you know, Ronda Rousey, him, you know, they helped a lot of people, you know, make more. Yes.
Yeah, everybody rises to the top. I mean, fighting, geez, what was fighting back in the Frank Shamrock days when you had Frank Shamrock as a champion? What were they making back then? Any guesstimates?
I don't, you know, I would tend to think when Frank fought Tito Ortiz for the title and he defended his title, and I think that was the last time he fought for the UFC. I don't remember what he made, but I want to say it was under 200.
Yeah. And I know he had another fight that paid more than that against Kung later on in Strikeforce.
That was in Strikeforce. He definitely got paid more than that in Strikeforce. And you got to remember that one was sold out.
Yeah, I was there.
Oh, yeah.
That was a live crowd. That
was an amazing. What Scott Coker did to Strikeforce, all the quality, the fighters he had, I mean, that man knows how to promote. I mean, he had the best of the best coming up, and had Strikeforce never folded up, we'd be having a debate on who's number one.
That is the debate, because, you know, well, we're over here with this brand, and then they bring a bunch of guys to the UFC, and they all became champions, including some of your guys.
That's what I'm saying. You know, we'd have a different debate on who is, because Scott Coker had Ronda Rousey. You know, Scott Coker had Romero. Scott Coker had, like I said, my guys. You know, Scott Coker had Tyron Woodley. I mean, I can go on and on and on and on, and you're gonna go, what? He had that champion, he had that. Yeah, he had all those champions. So don't go telling me he didn't have the talent. He sure as hell did. You know, he had Jacare. I mean, he had man, so many. I could just go on and on and on. But he had, you know, he had Cyborg back at those days too. You know, he had a lot, man.
I miss Strikeforce for some reason. I like Bellator, but I miss Strikeforce. I like the flavor of it. There was something about it. I guess it's the difference between Coke and Pepsi. I don't know. You know.
Strikeforce was a great organization. You know, and yeah.
Yeah, a lot of your guys, and it was right down the street for you. It's right down the street for me. So we really got to enjoy having that near where we live and where you train your guys and where your gym's at.
Yeah, it was nice. Yeah, it was nice. It was hometown. We didn't have to go anywhere. We stayed here. Yeah, no, it's good.
So you get a lot of guys coming up. They're fighting next month in February, right? Bellator fights.
Yeah, Ed Ruth's the main event. Then I have Sean Bunch fighting, and I have Salim. Salim is fighting. I think that's it. Maybe Kyle Crutchmer will be fighting on the card. So there might be 4 guys on that card. I'm not quite sure about Kyle, but I know Sean Bunch is on. I know Ed Ruth's the main event, and I know Salim is on the card also.
Ed Ruth had a pretty tough bout. That was the first time he was really, really tested differently than when he fought Gracie. When, you know, he's like, oh, I didn't know this strangle trap. But Ed Ruth is such an amazing athlete. He's such a stud, and he's such a nice guy. You know?
Yeah, he's an amazing athlete, and he's a fighter. You know, he's not just a wrestler. He's a fighter. He'll stand with you. I mean, you know, he still needs to work the MMA fight IQ, but as far as athletic, you know, ability, man, that guy's incredible.
Well, the guy he fought was a real banger. He was a former champion of the LFA, won another one of the close to the second leagues as Strikeforce or the Bellator to UFC level, I guess, and that level of leagues. And he's like, okay, I'm ready. And that guy was just coming at him. And so it's good that he had that test. I think he's only going to get better from here when he had someone coming at that level of aggression.
Yeah, and especially if you overcome it and you win. Yeah, of course.
You know. Well, you face if you don't face any dominance, then you don't know what it is, because you just walk out and dominate till one day someone's like, no, I don't play that game. And I can see the rude awakening.
Yeah.
So let's see. Do you know who Maurice Green is?
Yeah, it's a heavyweight.
Yeah, he's fighting Alexander Olenek.
Right.
Olenek, I'm trying to say his name. Olenek would be better because he gets you by the neck.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know much about Maurice, but who do you see taking this fight?
I don't know. I don't really pay attention.
Pick one for fun. I'm going to be wrong.
Green.
Green? Okay, we'll go green. And we're just picking. You guys can't hold it.
No, I'm not. I'm just going on. I'm not
say a name.
I'm just saying green. There's no expert analogy here. I'm just saying green.
We're just going hey, I walked in. I got to make a pick. Here they are. So you get Anthony Pettis versus a guy I haven't heard of, but he probably really kicked butt somewhere down in Brazil to be on this card.
Pettis.
Yeah?
I haven't seen the other guy, but Pettis.
That's it.
Based on the interviews I see that the other guy is going to want to try to do, I think he's going to find a really hard time doing anything to Anthony Pettis. I mean, I could be wrong, but I go Pettis.
Diego Ferreira.
On that one, I'm going more on as a coach. That one I say yes.
Well, Pettis is. I feel like he's had a couple of big tests in Tony Ferguson, and let me see who he fought recently. He had some really challenging match, but he was competitive in all of these fights.
He's fought bigger, stronger guys than the opponent he's fighting on Saturday, and that's
why. He beat Stephen Thompson. He lost to Ferguson. Poirier beat him, and Nate Diaz beat him. Nate Diaz came out with the ring rust and just polished it off.
Yeah, and that's where Anthony came on and said that before the fight, his coach, Duke Rufus, wanted him to pull out because he cut his hand doing the USADA bottle deal. And so it prohibited him from closing his fists, which if that's the case, then you go into this fight handicapped, mentally not 100% ready now. So he went into that fight where he actually should have probably not entered that fight.
Okay. Holly Holm and Raquel Pennington.
That one 4 years ago, Raquel had lost. That was 4 years ago. Raquel's improved vastly since then. That's a squeaker, but I'm gonna go with, if Holly's on, I'm going with Holly. Slight margin, Holly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, we're looking at Raquel's got a record of 10-7-0, and Holly's at 12-5-0, so she's a little more winning on her record. And she needs to come back, Something about back to Pettis, though, makes me feel like he wants to make, kind of like, how Jorge Masvidal kind of switched it all around. He's at one of those ranges in his career.
Anthony's definitely in that scenario where he could do what Jorge did. Definitely, yes. He's still good enough to make an impact where everybody takes him serious again, 100%.
So the card, it's kind of mixed. It's not like a straight line hammer, 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 hammer. It's like a lot of different tools on this one. It's not a consistent thing. The headline's a killer.
Well, the headline drowns everybody else out. I don't think unless you're have somebody that you're of interest. Like if you asked me who was on there, I couldn't tell you. If before you started saying who was on there, I wouldn't have been able to tell you who was on there other than Cowboy and Connor, because if you notice on all the press clippings and everything, it's Connor and Cowboy, Connor and Cowboy, Connor and Cowboy. That's it. I don't really see anybody else this taking much of a headline, where they're trying to push him. So, I don't know who else is on this card, and not, no disrespect to anybody, but they're not really advertising them.
That, you know what? That's it right there. And it's always been the complaint. That's the tough thing. It's like if you're an MMA fighter, you need to do a lot of things. You need to diversify. Like, how DC is a commentator, and Josh Thompson, when he was fighting, he was a commentator as well, right? When he wasn't on the card. And some of the other fighters that we see in the UFC that are coming on board now, color commentating and stuff like that.
Yeah.
It does help boost your star, but it's hard. You might get some Instagram following, you might get some pictures, you might have a cool video, but it lasts as long as what people watch. 15 seconds, okay. Oh, how about a cheeseburger? So it's hard to sustain stardom because there's more people. So it is a harder market. It's different.
Yeah.
So how fast did people, what was the pool? What would you say, like early, when you started coaching, what year did you really start coaching fighters in the UFC?
First one was 1995, December. Paul Varlins. I helped. I wasn't his coach, but I helped in the Ultimate in Denver, Colorado, where Dan Severn won. That's where I started. And my first official guy that I went in was Brian Johnston in 1996. And that was in Augusta, Georgia, I believe. And where he fought in the tournament that Don Fry won.
Yeah, Don Fry was a stud back then.
Yeah. Don Fry's amazing person and amazing fighter.
I like the persona of Don Fry, but geez, Paul Varlins, of all people, that guy was monstrous. The polar bear. He's my friend on Facebook. I haven't talked to him, but
like 360 pounds, man. 6'8" or 7, something like that. 360 pounds. Big guy, man.
I was working at a gym, and I was talking to this girl about some machine, and I see this huge guy staring at me. This is in San Jose. And I go, who's that guy? That big scary guy staring at me. She goes, oh, that's my boyfriend. I go, oh, okay, wrap up what I have to say. I'm out of here.
Yeah.
That was, he was pretty imposing. So from there, I mean, you bounce between, as things grew, Strikeforce, UFC, you had fighters in all organizations, but mainly probably between those two and Bellator, I would say.
Well, they were the main ones TV wise, yeah. So I was between Strikeforce and UFC, yeah.
Did you ever go to the Affliction fights?
Believe it or not, no, I never attended one.
Oh man, that was a mind blower. That was amazing. I don't know why, I loved it. They had rock bands playing live, like a concert mixed with the fighters.
That might be because you're into the Rock, but people like me didn't really care for it on TV.
We'll put your music on there. It'll make it better.
No, I prefer no music, just the way the UFC does it.
Right.
The interest is music, and then it's just fights. Most people just want to see the fights. Show me the fights. Entertainment's fine, but they want to see fights.
There's nobody that I'd ever bought their albums or even listened to on the regular. I just thought how they put the production, it was kind of exciting. I mean,
well, it's kind of exciting, but again, if you're a fan, a true fan of the sport of fighting, and not everybody's a rock fan, so it's kind of like if you're not a rock and roll guy, it's like, I mean, maybe if they played something, I mean, I like rock and roll, but I'm more of a fan of, the fights. I like the entrance music for sure, but that's it. I don't want to watch a entertainer do his thing, because if I'm waiting for somebody to fight, then I want to take off after, and then that entertainer is taking up the time that I didn't come to see rock band. I came to see, fights.
Yeah, it's true. They made a jump at it. That was an interesting promotion. They lasted like 2 fights. It was too expensive, too top heavy. It was the first people like, we're going to pay you what you're worth.
Paid too much. They paid way too much.
They were paying fighters $800,000 10 years ago.
Yeah.
And then no room for profit. So you're out of business.
Yeah, pretty much.
You have to grow somewhere. I'm going to look for some fan questions, but I think we're going to call you after the fight just to get your reaction, just to see how this plays out. We gave picks for these other fights just from the hip. We're not going to pick Cowboy and Conor.
We're not?
Oh, we can. Let's do it. Forget about it. Why
not? I predict Conor before 3, Cowboy after 3.
Okay. I'm going to give you my only observation, not as a professional fighter, because I'm not.
Well, I'm doing this one as a fan. I'm just
okay.
There's a little bit of strategy in what I'm saying, but this is more of a fan type thing.
Okay, well, I'm going to think Cerrone is going to give him difficulty because he's taller like Nate Diaz was. And that, usually I noticed in most of his fights, Conor was the taller at the lower level weight classes, so he was pretty dominant. When he jumps up to 170, he's got a longer opponent. He's got a different thing to tackle. His punch has to go up to a higher couple of inches and different things. So he has to punch a different thing. I don't know how much difference that makes. I mean, you tell me as a coach.
And it makes a big difference if you're not somebody who can adapt to that. And if Conor can't adapt to that type of style because of the height, yeah, it can cause some major problems. And I don't know whether he can or can't. It's something you observed that's actually a good observation. But it could be a problem.
I mean, technique-wise, I think Conor's a faster starter, way faster. He'll come at you, and he'll stay back. He doesn't just push his chin in your face that easily. So I don't know. It'll be interesting to see how he deals with the kicks from Cerrone. And then part of me is leaning on Cerrone. He's got something to leave it all hanging out there. This may not be the last fight of his career.
Yeah.
This guy doesn't know how to quit. I don't think he would know how not to fight.
Well, the one thing that I'm pretty confident in saying that I think is going to be a stand-up fight, because number one, Conor's got a hell of a defense. He's not easy to take down, not easy at all. He's very, very good defensively, and Cerrone is better on the ground, but Conor's no slouch, man. He's really good on the ground. People underestimate how good he is, and I never did, and that's the reason why we were able to do what we did, because I never underestimated how good he was everywhere, you know, and too many people discounted how good he was on the ground. I never did, you know, and I think that being the case, you know, I think that you know, Conor's, to me, that it's got the better chances of the stand-up game, and being that Cowboy wants it to be a stand-up game, I think that's what it's going to be.
Well, I mean, they're going, let's go man to man, no running away. You know, some people fight for a point fight. There's no reason. There's no reason to. Sorry, in the background, the YouTube channel came up. But
doesn't matter with you're fired.
I'm fired, man. There's no reason.
Hurry up.
There's no reason.
Keep asking questions. You're like, man, people are bored.
Hey, pay attention. I got some questions.
Yeah, ask away, because man, it's like people go, God damn it, get off the damn podcast.
Let me mention something too.
Oh, hurry up! You know, shit. People are gonna get tired. They're gonna tune off. Then they're gonna go, oh, I missed that part. So hurry up.
You're training me to be a tough journalist, man. I mean, come on now.
Get to the meat of the questions. What people want to hear.
Okay.
They don't want to hear us banter over and over. It's like stupid talk.
Yeah, we got some good stuff, buddy.
Get the juicy stuff.
Okay.
Hit him.
Oh, someone's like, Coach Javier, please help Khabib. Don't let money turn off the fire that Khabib has all his life fighting in the big leagues. Thank you.
Don't need to touch that with a 10-foot pole. Khabib's already that way. Money doesn't change him.
I know, but it's just different to hear it from you. And then this somebody being on standby. I don't want to go there, right? And
the standby, yeah, you can go there, because if 4 times it didn't go through, so even myself, because how can I say it isn't going to happen this time? Well, shit, I didn't think it was going to happen the 4th time. I mean, look what happened. Freak thing, he walks after damn interview stuff and destroys his knee, man. And then Khabib before that was a freak one too. So I'm not going to say that. I'd say, yeah, standby is probably not a bad idea.
Let's talk about standby. Conor says he will be in standby for Khabib and Tony fight and be preparing for Khabib. And if Tony pulls out, he will step in. Conor's coach said he's even said after his fight with Cowboy, they'll start training for Khabib Tony fight. But I've also heard that Cowboy's training to be on standby too. I mean,
well, what I think is, with Khabib, he ain't worried about the next fight. He's only worried about Tony. He's only focused on Tony. So for those guys, if both of them are talking that way, then that's an equal playing field. But I wouldn't want my guys talking about, I'm going to get on standby on that one. And, I would not. I want them to shut up about that and just focus on what's ahead. So that would be my opinion. And if you talk to Khabib, he ain't worried about the winner of those fights. He's worried about Tony, and he should be. He's got a real challenge in front of him. He don't want to be considered about something that's not a challenge to him yet. He needs to get by Tony. So Tony needs to be his number one focus, not anybody else.
And what's the fear in that anyways? That's a muscle memory fight. You've already trained that one. You've done that routine. You've trained for one of those guys before, basically.
Well, Tony and him, they both trained for each other for 4 times already. So it's just a matter of both of them coming in and getting the fight on, and I want to believe, and I actually do believe that it'll happen this time around. I believe it's going to happen, but can I give you 100%? No, but I believe it will happen.
So here's a question. It's written kind of back and forth. I guess I'll interpret it my way. Someone's going, well, right after he beats up Tony and defends his title, why doesn't he jump to welterweight? Let's get through that fight first, but let's say wherever he is there some point that he jumps to welterweight, or why he would want to? I know he's stayed in his lane and he hasn't tried. That's the difference between him and Conor, who's been jumping weight classes and stuff to make fights, where he's continuing his record in one straight line to say, look, this is the eternal record, right?
He's comfortable at 155. He's comfortable staying there. His father is the number one influence with him, and his father has only indicated 155, and so therefore, in Khabib's mind, and he's only 155. I've never heard him say anything other than 155. He's not looking to jump up in weight. Doesn't mean he won't, But what it does mean, he's never talked about it in that regard, other than he fights at 155. That's where he feels that he wants to be, and that's probably where, at the present time, he will retire at 155. Now, I could be wrong because things do change, but as it stands, 155 is the only weight he's thinking about.
Well, I mean, I can see the logic in that. I mean, he's also got brothers fighting in different leagues, and he doesn't want to be like he's leaving room for everybody to come up in their own way. He's not going to, jump a class to another guy's thing necessarily, But I guess it's also look at someone like, not to put him down, GSP jumps in, takes the title from Bisping, jumps in and jumps out. I'm out. See you later. Thanks for the title. And you're not sent like he did. I'm going to give it back to GSP though. At 170, he defended that thing eternally. And maybe that's more of what.
Well, he also got the right person to fight. That was the perfect style matchup for him to go after. That was beautiful on his part, beautiful thinking on his part, and smart thinking to finish. So he did all the right things. Very smart.
Let's see.
Yeah.
They're like, how come DC isn't always at the side of the cage to support Khabib? But he's there when he can be. There's only so many slots they give you guys, like the coach, the father, you, and how many people can corner a fighter, right? Pretty much. And he was there after.
Well, this is the thing. It's like, if you're not in my corner, if you're not training me, then who's going to work my corner? Well, guess what? I train him. His father trains him. And then he's had people that train him back home. So they're working his corner because they train him. Nobody else here at my gym actually trains him. So it's me, it's always going to be me with him, and it's always going to be his father. And if his father's not working the corner, it's because his father hasn't been able to get to the U.S. because of the visa. But I hope that's been resolved and his father can join us in Brooklyn. I'm thinking that's going to be resolved, or maybe it has been resolved. I just know that I love having his father there because, that's the man that he started with. And I'm second. Father's number one. I'm number two. And yeah, I'm in my lane. I'm number two with him. But if his father's not there, then I'm number one.
That's and you guys take wherever it's happening, you guys step in, you do your best, and you support your guy, and it's a beautiful thing. Now, somebody's saying something like Islam is facing some of the same problems as Khabib. That's their interpretation by the media, like not seeing him fight fast enough. They feel like, how there was a long stint where people were turning down fights with Khabib or not signing a contract, right?
Yeah.
Where he was like.
They're trying to get Islam fighting now. They were trying to get Kevin Lee. Kevin Lee's side wanted to fight. Our side wanted to fight. The UFC has bigger aspirations for that fight, I believe. I believe they're trying to save that for later. So at the present time, Khabib we talked, and he's trying to get Umar, his cousin, on the Brooklyn show, and he's trying to get Islam. So keep your fingers crossed that both of them get on. As of yet, no, but both of those guys are being asked if they can get put on that show. So Islam has been training to fight, just don't know where yet.
So I mean, some of the questions are the same. I think I'll wrap that up on the questions. I'll throw one in there. Any word on Abubakar? When's his next fight? Or you were telling me.
I don't know anything.
You were telling me that last time, but it's like, hey, we're giving you guys this thing.
Yeah.
5 or 10 days later, we have a little bit more knowledge, but not much.
No, I don't know exactly what's going on with Mano.
Well, for you YouTube people that don't know it, Coach Javier has a great Instagram where he's always posting stuff that you may or may not see on this channel. And we do share some of that with it here. And you got to look him up at AKA Jav, AKA JAV. That's where you can find Coach. And we're also asking you to subscribe and share this with your friends if you're into the MMA world and AKA and the certain fighters that train out of there. We really enjoy you supporting our channel. And we would like to get some videos. Coach and I talked about that earlier. You want to see some of those videos we can respond to, right?
Yeah, I think that kind of excites me a little bit to see the enthusiasm and the real, I need to know this question from the fans. No, I like that. I'm surprised a lot of other podcasts haven't got onto that. And didn't you say Chael's doing that?
Chael Sonnen. Thanks, Chael.
Yeah, and Chael's
great.
That's great brilliance on him. He's a mastermind. That guy. That guy's an incredible talker and intelligent mind. And man, yeah, he has an incredible genius plan on him to do that. You know, and yeah, no, I would say thanks for him because I think it's a fantastic idea. I like it.
If he came on here with us, I would have to drink some coffee to keep up with that guy. He's pretty quick, man.
We couldn't keep up with him. Who are you kidding? He'd make us look like idiots. Says, no, we ain't keeping up with Chael. He's gonna talk us, make us look like we don't know what the hell we're doing. No,
yeah,
I'm not in his league. That guy's a professional. I'm not a professional. I'm a coach. And coaching department, I don't know about that because he doesn't coach. But as far as the speaking, oh, he'd tear me apart.
So fans can find us. Listen, we want you guys to send us videos for Coach to respond to. You can film it on your phone and send it to an email. We have a Gmail account. It is AKA fan questions, AKA fan questions at gmail.com. I'll say it for a third time. AKA fan questions at gmail, and send them to Coach Javier and ask him whatever you like. If it's too foul or crazy, I'm sorry, we're not going to be able to put it up. But if as long as it's in good taste, what's out of bounds, Jav?
You know what? It's up to them to think about the answers. If it's going to hurt someone, it's going to, then I'm not answering it. I'm not into throwing dirt at anybody. So just think from that clarification. What do I think of this fighter? Do I think he's this or that? And I know it's going to be a negative response. I'm not going to answer it.
Well, I mean, here's the thing. If you get a good question and you make it in one of our clips, we might even feature you in Coach Javier's really, really big Instagram following. It's like 341,000 followers. So, hey, you'll get featured. It's like being on TV, but Instagram. I guess it's the same thing.
Oh, you just threw my Instagram out there. That's actually pretty good. Be honest with you, I like that. Put the fan question on my Instagram. I'd do that. Yeah, that'd be nice. Yeah.
I mean, we want more people watching here, but we need you to come here so we can get you there. And we want you to watch our videos as well as Coach's Instagram.
Yeah, I definitely, if it's a great question, I definitely will put it up. Definitely, yeah.
Yeah, you'll get the spotlight. It's you're just as important to us as vice versa, man. We'd love to hear from you guys. Subscribe and share with your friends. And thanks, Javier. That was a long podcast. I got it out of you.
Like always, you're long-winded. I know we're supposed to make it short. I mean, my office people are looking at me trying to open the door like, what the hell are you doing? We need work.